We have finally arrived back on Quadra Island. Cozied up close to Vancouver Island, Quadra is the biggest of the Gulf Islands and where we call home. We'll be here for a few weeks before continuing on to northern Canada and Alaska to spend the summer. We'll use this time to recuperate and modify and upgrade our little home on wheels for the journey ahead. Well, hey there folks, if you guys don't already know, my name is Alex. This is the Slow Roamers channel. For the past 7 months, my partner Megan and I have been traveling around the United States, Canada, and Mexico in our van Betty, a two-wheel drive Chevy Express 2500. And if you guys watched last week's video, you would know by now that we are prepping to head to northern Canada and Alaska for the summer. At the end of the summer, we will be starting from Tuktoyaktuk, Northwest Territories, and heading all the way down to the southern tip of South America. Right now, we are here on Quadra Island, which is our kind of home base, and we have 2 weeks of changes, upgrades, and fixes to do. So this video is going to be dedicated to showing you guys what has broken, what we want to change, the upgrades that we're going to be making to the van after 7 months of very, very heavy travel. So let's take a look at what we got to do. So we're going to start with the very short list of upgrades to the van. Right here up at the front, we're going to be modifying the bumper a little bit as well. These lights are going to be moved elsewhere on the van and replaced with 4 7-inch spotlights as well. I'm going to pull it off and have my buddy Lance weld up some of the seams in there. When I built this bumper, I welded it together with flux core, and I don't think I had enough heat and got good enough penetration for this thing to really hold together when there's a full 10,000 pounds of pull on the bumper. While we were in Nevada, we got the van stuck and I had to winch out. And that whole time I was a little bit worried about the bumper being pulled right off of the van. So I just want to make sure that I don't have to think about that the next time we get stuck. So last summer, while we were building the van here on Quadra, we thought not to put a window right here. That was mainly a financial decision. Windows cost a lot and we just were running out of money with the entire build. But we found over the 7 months that we've been sleeping in this van that we really need a cross breeze across the bed while we are sleeping. We've been in hot climates for the most part, and we've spent some nights that are extremely hot. So windows going in here. So I think that is pretty much all that we're going to upgrade for now. When we built the van, we actually did a pretty good job of getting everything that we wanted into the van. However, we do need to lose some weight from the van. When we weighed the van leaving the islands last year, it was 50 pounds under GVW. And then when we weighed her on the way back, she was at 8,900 pounds, which is 300 pounds over GVW. I will attribute most of the weight gains to the larger axle and larger springs that we put under the van in Arizona, which technically, but not legally, contribute to a larger GVW. But nonetheless, I don't want to be driving around a van that is almost 9,000 pounds. It's just harder on everything. Fuel mileage, suspension, brakes, engine, transmission, all of that stuff. We have to start going on a weight savings program, which means cutting anything off the van that can be cut off, taking any of the additional weight off, getting as much stuff that we haven't been using out of the van, just trying to get the van as close to the GVW as possible just by doing that. So, if you happen to be a person that watches our channel or our videos for Meg's cooking, or perhaps you follow Meg at slowarmer.meg on Instagram, you'll be happy to know that we are adding an addition to her repertoire of cooking facilities, which is an outdoor kitchen. So this space is kind of wasted space as far as I'm concerned, and we're trying to figure out a way for Meg to be able to cook outside so that she can do more meat, especially bacon. So what we're going to be doing is adding a fold down kind of shelf right here and a gas connection right here so that we can have a little propane single burner outside and Meg can cook outside. And that should just kind of add to the aura of her cooking videos. And in addition to all of these things, we'll be doing a small collection of interior tweaks and modifications for better comfort and efficiency. Indeed, after 7 months of living in this vehicle, there are some things that have been driving us absolutely bonkers. At this point, I have been talking for far too long. I am going crazy. I have done far too many takes, and I'm ready to start modifying this van so that we can leave for northern Canada. Let's do it. The first order of business was, as you can imagine, emptying the van and sorting through everything. It's astonishing to see how many small things begin to add up in a big way. Take note of the van's door in the lower right-hand corner. It travels upwards as I remove weight, and the van springs return to initial ride height. And there you have it. All the junk is out of the back. Here's the storage space. Also, as you can see, there's a bit of a dust problem inside the van. So we may have found the issue with the back doors. There's actually a big hole in the door back here. But what we're going to be doing is replacing these window gaskets here. I'm going to be adding an additional gasket on the inside of the door over here. And then I'm hoping with that, the back doors sealed enough so that there's at least less dust ingress into the van. If you've been watching our videos for a while, you'll have seen us at least once opening up the back doors and just hitting the bedding and just dust comes off, and it's been pretty nasty. So we've been fighting that for a long time. Okay, now to start picking what stays and what goes. What's also of interest is the number of items we managed to acquire while on the road and the amount of stuff we packed that we never really used. We try to live minimally, but this proves that even seasoned road travelers don't get it right the first time. So I couldn't actually find a matching gasket, so I'm trying something that's similar, but it's a little bit more robust. The gasket that I'm using can be found on Amazon under automotive door weather stripping. Oh yeah, there ain't nothing getting past that. Heck yeah. That's the way I like it. So I'll show you a little comparison of the gasket from the gasket that I got from the windows when I pulled them out of the junkyard and what I bought off of Amazon. You can see, I don't know if it's gonna focus. You can see how this portion, this bulb right here, is nice and supple. And then you can see this bulb is all compressed. It's supple, compressed. So dust was getting past this basically when the windows were closed. And now that's not gonna happen. That's a big upgrade for those of you who own a Chevy Express that have these push-out windows at the back. If you have any kind of dust ingress, I would suggest this. Next up, I shed some weight by removing the solar shower and surfboard rack. It's not much, but every pound counts. And also for reference, that's all the junk that I pulled out of the van that will not be going back in, save for the window. I want to say it's probably collectively all about 100 pounds. Well, here's an errand that we have to do as well. We finally got slow roamer stickers for the side of the van now that we've been all the way down to Baja and back up. So a big thanks to Josh and Vanessa for printing these out for us. Vanessa works at a graphics shop and was able to squeeze these in, so that is fantastic. There we go. Cute. Due to the fact that I don't have access to a welder, I'm heading up to North Island to meet my friend Lance, who has a fabricating shop and has agreed to do some work for me. I met Lance at random last summer as we drove past his house and I recognized his built-up Tacoma. You can find his Instagram and YouTube at 4xFarm. Lance is currently tackling some major projects and will likely play a significant role in the future project that we're currently cooking up. Stay tuned for that. First order of business is to cut all the excess steel off the rear bumper. When I built this bumper almost 2 years ago, I had a number of ideas for it that never came to fruition and have instead become an eyesore to me. So off they come. Once everything is removed, Lance tacks on the new heavy-duty latches that I've purchased for the bumper. Next, the 5-liter jerry can mount is moved over to the left side of the swing out. Then, once the ladder has been shortened, it too is welded back in place. Everything is finished off with a fast and loose spray paint job to prevent rust forming when it inevitably rains here on the island. Alright, so you can see that we did some modifications here on the bumper. We added these big latches, made a new platform for the jerry can, moved that over and shorten the ladder just by a smidge. So what all this is for, I wanted to put this weight closer to the pivot point so there's less leverage on this swing out here. These swing outs, like all swing outs, have loosened off a lot over the last year of just travel over really rough roads. So they were actually banging up against these perches that I have, and it would be really loud when we were on gravel roads and washboard and stuff like that. So we put these big, huge, heavy-duty clamps on here so that the swing arms are actually kind of just sucked in to the bumper, and there's a lot less movement back here, which is going to quiet things down a lot. As well, we put this right here, which is a perch for a jerry can. This jerry can right here, when it is full of gasoline, will go here so that the weight is not up high, and it also like kind of works as a step for me as I climb the ladder. So that is all the modifications on the rear bumper completed. Next up, we put a big old hole in the side of Betty. Let's do it.
In a past life, I traced the window onto the side of the vehicle I was cutting a hole into. I learned later that it's a much better tactic to simply cut a stencil of your window and trace that onto the side of your vehicle.
He's thinking.
Alright, so now that we have kind of just like a rough idea of where the window is going to go, I'm just going to drill a hole right smack dab in the center. So as Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger said, "Hasta la vista, baby." And of course it doesn't go all the way through.
Because this window is glue-in and not a clamping style window, the cutout needs to be very tight, with as little wiggle room as possible.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, now that we got the whole wall cut out, including the kind of interior siding, this is a glue-in-place window, which means I've got to glue it now, and then hopefully some way keep it in place. Hi.
I'm using a product called Proform 224, which is a urethane sealant and adhesive. It's incredible stuff, and I use it alongside Sikaflex 221 in all of my glue-down, watertight applications. My buddy Mike turned me onto it when I had to seal a roof hatch in the middle of winter while it was raining. Turns out it was a total lifesaver.
Immediately forget that was there.
The next day, I went over to our friend Dave's place to use his shop while doing a brake service on the van. Since returning from Baja the first time, I've been chasing down an incredibly annoying rattle from the brakes, which I have learned since is the dreaded Chevy brake rattle. This annoying noise will begin to occur in almost every set of front brakes on a Chevy Express or Silverado, ranging from 2003 to roughly 2013, if that vehicle sees a lot of gravel roads and corrugations.
Alright, here's a fun teaching moment for you. Not that I know much, but this right here is a slider clip. This is just a metal clip that clips over this big bracket here, and then the brake pads slide on this. And what happens is the gap between here and here gets bigger, so that there's movement up and down like this, and that's where the clatterbang comes from. It becomes a real pain in the butt. So what I've seen done is a guy, he hammers this space smaller. So it looks like there's actually a little bit of wear on the actual brake pad itself. So I'm just going to hammer this so that it's a little bit tighter. Hopefully it will stop, you know, doing its thing where it rattles so much. Alright, so I have closed these gaps a little bit so they are a little bit tighter. Now, they still fit onto the sliders, but they are just a little bit tighter, don't have quite as much movement. So I'm hoping that solves my issue.
To be frank, I'm not a licensed mechanic, and what I've done here is based off of a YouTube video that I watched where a guy fixed his brakes in the same way. If you have more or better knowledge about the Chevy brake rattle than I do, I am all ears. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of information on the internet on how to combat this problem, other than to constantly replace the slider clips or completely replace the caliper.
So I've taken off the caliper. Caliper doesn't seem seized, but we're getting kind of a crusty rub in there. Ooh. Yeah, right there. So I think there's a dust shield behind here that I need to maybe empty out of debris. Because when we were wheeling around with Josh and Vanessa, we got a lot of crud back here, I think. So we'll see if we can figure that out.
As is often the case in my vehicle mechanical and maintenance journey, the issue wasn't apparent, and I simply continued on with the service, giving the park brake pads a scuff to get the rust off, and the inner wall of the rotor a sanding as well.
That's not the right sponsor for this video. So today's video, if you didn't know already, is brought to you by Auxbeam. Well, look at this guy. He's got an Auxbeam shirt on. He's all sponsored and stuff. Oh boy. So admittedly, I've actually been using Auxbeam products for quite a while. It started with 5x7 LED headlights on the front of Betty, which were a massive improvement over the seal beam halogens that came factory on the van. From there, we moved on to 7-inch rounds spotlights that were on our old bumper and sold with our old bumper. And then last summer, we installed the 6-gang switch panel, which hugely cleaned up the wiring, made everything really easy. And it's a product that I would really suggest. And I'll be wiring these new lights directly into that, and I don't even need to use the supplied wiring harness. It was during a hurried dash through the desert in the middle of the night in Utah last winter that I realized we were really underpowered with the amount of light that we had on the front of the van. I couldn't see out quite far enough, and what happened is I wound up hitting some bumps pretty hard and knocking out the alignment on the van. And so after that, it was like, well, I kind of need some better lights on the front. And then Auxbeam reached out to me on our way back home, and it was a no-brainer. I said yes, and here we are, installing the surface of the sun on the front of the van today, and I'll show you what I mean by that. This right here is a 7-inch LED projector headlight. I'm installing 4 of them on the front of the van, which is kind of ridiculous, but you know, whatever. You only live once. You might as well have fun with a whole bunch of light on the front of your vehicle. So the beautiful thing about this, as I mentioned, is that's a projector right there. So that will fire the light way out ahead of us, just give me great visibility, you know, way out in front. And then these LED lights around will kind of make a flood effect and light up the area a little bit closer. As we're currently on the subject of being out in the desert at night, if you've done this, you may know that sometimes it's really difficult to find a campsite at night in the desert because it's so dark out there. So it really pays to have like 360-degree lighting on your vehicle. We have that already, but I use these old crappy LEDs that I got off of Amazon, and they're pretty weak and I can't really see very well with them. So I decided, you know, with this collaboration that I would ask if Auxbeam would help me put a little bit more light on the van. So they graciously agreed, and what we're upgrading with are these babies right here. So this right here is kind of like your generic like 4-inch LED light bar. They're gonna replace little 3-inch ones. These are way higher powered than what I have on the van currently. These are gonna go a long ways in lighting up the road on either side and behind me when we're driving through the desert. Should make finding camp spots way easier. So without further ado, we're gonna get into the installation because I have done this Little talk, probably about 7 times. There's the reality of YouTube, folks.
First things first, I've got to drill holes in the front bumper so I can attach the lights. I had intentions of adding a full bull bar portion to the bumper, but these lights are so big that it left me no room to put the bull bar on in such a way that it was aesthetically pleasing. Oh well, I guess I'll just have to wait until the next project for that.
Alright, so I've just finished up this wiring harness. I went 4 to 1, or 4 to 2. Yeah, anyway, everything goes down into this 10 gauge wire, and all I have to do is just wire it right up to my Auxbeam switch panel control module kind of thing, and I'll have power and a switch already installed. That's the great thing about these switch panels, is it makes everything really straightforward.
Once I had the wires connected into the control module, I did a quick test to make sure everything was working correctly. Once satisfied, it was time to pop the grill back on and get started on mounting the lights. One thing I appreciate about the mounting brackets is the adjustment screw. Once you tighten that, the lights don't budge from their set angle. Next are the auxiliary roof lights. This was a relatively straightforward job, as the wiring for the lights already existed, and I simply had to attach the new connectors to the lights, mount the new brackets and the lights, and then plug them in.
Well folks, at this point I don't think I can stuff anything more into this video. I've been working for the past week feverishly to get everything modified and upgraded and also shoot everything, and I'm just at my wit's end. I don't think I can do any more. So that is it for this one. But we have one more very important thing to do, and that is turn all of these lights on. Let's do it. Headlights. Laser beams! Pew-pews! Light bar! That is absolutely ridiculous. Oh my gosh. Well, all the off-road guys make fun of lights before lockers, but I got a locker already, so I put on all the lights. Well, I think I'll be the first to admit it. I'm a little bit out of control with the whole lights thing, but, you know, as I said, you gotta have fun with it. You only live once. Hey, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate every single one of you that chooses every single week to watch our videos. We really appreciate all the comments, all of the encouragement. Keeps us going, and stay tuned. There's lots of cool stuff to happen, lots of cool places to go see. So yeah, until the next one, keep on roaming. Peace.